short topic, science and technology, environment. I would like to know your doubts regarding environment, what to study, where to study, what are the issues you are facing, anything that you feel like. Any issues, what do you think? Is it tough, is it easy, how to prepare, how to go about it? Any questions? None. Chalo, I'll just, yeah. Okay. First is issue with sources for environment, how to prepare, do's and don'ts. When you go about solving some questions. Sources is very important, especially I think after 2015 when there was this deluge of questions. We had 9, 2014 there was 18, 2015 there was around 11, 16, 10, 17, 8 and 18 again 11. But specifically, I'll just tell you, so what are the particular sources, basic terminology, treaties, agreements, pollution, global warming, environmental laws in India. I would add institutions, others. Especially after 2014, when they asked 18 questions, people started getting paranoid about environment. And especially considering those questions were like, within this national river, within this national park, this river flows, this is the bird, this is the animal. People started getting paranoid, and along with culture, if I am not very wrong, people do the maximum in-depth study in environment and culture on a current basis. The good part about this is it has two parts. One is current, one is static. Pollution, global warming, what is there in current affairs? Pollution, global warming, what is there in the static portion? Simple. What is smog? What is particulate matter? Any index which has come about recently? Any measure? Environmental laws in India, again CPCB Act, water which comes under which act? National Green Tribunal, National Pollution, State Pollution Control Board. Again, any modifications or anything which has been in the current news, especially treaties, agreement, Nagoya Protocol, what is Cartagena Protocol, what is Stockholm Protocol on persistent organic materials. Again, something in news, current and static. Basics terminology also current and static. They will always ask you questions in environment like this. In the context of this, which has been in news recently, tell us this. So this is the broad division of the course. Issue is with the sources. Normally, I think all of us follow current affairs related to environment from some source. I mean, it could be our ILP material, our material which comes about newspapers, etc. Plus standard book for everyone is Shankar. In my opinion, you could just broaden up your syllabus by two more things. India Yearbook Environment Report, Environment chapters, plus current affairs. ICSE Environment. Has anyone read through ICSE Environment book? ICSE Environment book is also quite good in clearing your concepts. Most importantly, I would tell is Ministry of Environment Forest Annual Report. This contains a lot of current affairs related to environment. You must go through this report at least once. and highlight the major things. Again, there will be cross questions on environment and agriculture. This is also a favorite area right now. They are combining questions on sustainable agriculture, environment. So, be prepared for those questions also. No need to, I have seen people being paranoid, they read agriculture books just in order to answer them. Another important part, always in prelims is return on investment. It is because prelims marks do not count for your mains marks at all. You just have to clear a particular score line, you get to the other side, forget prelims for the next of the year. Issue is, if you dig too deep in environment, I have seen people, what they do, they scout the maps, atlases, this is the national park, this is the river valley going to the national park, this is the schedule 1, 2, animals, etc. And the same is the issue with culture also nowadays. If you are going too deep, this sort of question will be 1 or 2. On an average of 10 questions or an average of 11 or 12 questions, 1 or 2. Rest 10 would be basic common sense and current affairs questions. My advice is, do not waste time on this. You have to balance between all the 6 subjects. We generally tend to focus on our weakest areas. No, prelims is all about maximizing your score across your 6 subjects. Even if I tell you that you will solve all the questions in polity, history, economy also, if you are not able to do satisfactorily in the other subjects, your chances are doomed. Do not dig so deep. Many a times I was just searching through my phone for my question paper, I did a very stupid mistake. In one very silly, I think there was this question that which of the following national parks lie in a zone which is both temperate as well as probably, I mean it is between the temperate and the cold zone in India. I did a very silly mistake. It was supposed to be probably somewhere in West Bengal, but I marked something else. It is because I was too happy because I had solved a tough one. The easier ones we tend to do mistakes. Hence, request all of you, do not put excess effort in environment and culture, specifically related to environment, because you never know. If you see they have been decreasing, there could be 15, 17 questions, but even if you see 2014 question paper, there were 18 questions, out of which 16 and 15 were purely common sense. If a person has a good understanding of current affairs along with static portions, he can do it. Rest, another 2 focus areas should be international organizations in environment. Then, if I could name that like this, specific plans, initiatives, like Red Plus, like some initiative which has come about. Just have a small copy, because it won't be possible for you to remember them. I mean, when you are doing your environment, I would rather advise you, instead of putting current affairs environment every time and forgetting, what you do is you have a small copy, then you are writing down all the current affairs of environment in one copy and revising that along with the environment chapters. It makes for greater retentivity. Another 2-3 points I would just like to add. Environment is unpredictable. As soon as you see the question paper, okay, what will hit you is, I mean, I suppose all of the people here are first timers. So, when you see the question paper, what will hit you is not the questions that you are solving. That is why I have told you many number of times, go for the things which you think are those 90 and 100 questions. Because issue is, I told you, I had a similar mental block. If my first answer gets wrong, I used to get pretty much pissed off with the paper. I used to take that as an indicator. Similarly, when you open the question, what will hit you is the questions which you are not able to solve or understand. You would, on a natural plane and progression, you would feel that these questions are outnumbering the number of questions that you can answer, and panic will set in. Trust me, that does not work that way. Because our mind is attuned, because the things which are easier, obviously we give it a bite. Whenever you are doing probably the target was 120 pluses. Just environment you could not be solving 2-3 questions. And I tell you time and again, put this in mind, take this as a, Gyan forever. All of you guys with a very sincere level of preparation are already in the top 30 percentile or 40 percentile. If you are finding it tough and you have not read it with all the current affairs sources and all those books which have been blasted upon you, then it is either a fault and you are not getting it, then obviously many people are not getting it. Otherwise, it's a slight question of you not taking that risk, probably benefiting out of it later on, or that simple logic. Like yesterday we are solving economics question and I was telling that this is how those 50%, you could rationalize and mark out. Somewhere you are not able to do that inference part. Environment similarly, do not go for factual answers which could be erroneous. There will be many questions in environment, which is the good part about environment, like geography. It will be analytical nature. The tougher ones would be analytical in nature. You could eliminate the options. Remember this, geography and environment questions would come if suppose there is a question which comes about national park or tribes, anything. You could just correlate with the particular geographical location and you can eliminate those answers. Same will be in geography also. You can help economics also, 3 subjects where you can eliminate the wrong answers. Hence, do not go for purely factual based questions like suppose they are asking you something about global environment facility and you don't know, don't go for it. And finally, revision of environment is very important because there are so many terms, so many protocols, so many treaties, so many agreements. You will have to revise. While you are doing treaties and agreements, how do you go about it? First is the chronology. Which treaty has been done where? And it's not a very big deal. I mean, if you start environment, we have been environmentally conscious, say, for the last 30-40 years. Then what do you do? Every treaty, main features or outcomes. See, this is something which is there in the material and you have to just take out. Instead of doing something like this, where you will have to spend probably 2-3 days in order to get it. Still there is no guarantee. Outcome in terms of what? A particular initiative or a particular program. Red plus, there could be, Nagoya Protocol. It came out of which treaty? This way. You just, and always remember, writing things like this help you memorize it much better. Instead of a normal note, make it tabular form. This is the treaty, this is the date, this is the place, this is the outcome. Simple. It is imprinted in your mind forever. Same for institutions. Suppose if there is UNFCCC, mandate formed when, place where, member countries involved, all the countries, specific countries, outcome, output. Always environment, endangered species, scheduled species, national parks, etc. Again, national park, state, rivers, no need to go through national park, state, what is the primitive animal there. Always try to remember environment stuff in a tabular form. It helps a lot. Trust me, it helps a lot if you are doing it in a tabular form. I don't think there is time for you to do it right now, but still if you are doing treaty, remember, only the main features they will ever ask. If you see very carefully, UPSC owned in a typical prelims question paper, in the 4 options, maximum 3 lines can be asked in 3 options. And those, and out of them I have told you before also, if 2 are very similar, leave the question. 1 would be a distinctive feature, you can tick it off. And yes, that's the right answer. So never go for prelims things which could be more than a paragraph. Never revise things in environment which could be more than a paragraph. Are you getting my point? It has always to be very objective. Main features, outcome, any initiative or program. If there is any initiative or program of Government of India, what is the target population? which is the ministry which runs it, those crucial aspects. This is only important in environment. Finally, don't clutter yourself with too much information. Use that time for your history. Use that time, current affairs. Do not put all your eggs in one basket in prelims. You will be totally, I mean, one or two, leave alone one. Even if you put in 3 or 4 baskets and you are not doing revision in others, you are missing your prelims. Do not go for much paper solving. So we'll just start with the first. Uh, please also, this is very important, go through OEF annual report of this year. I think it should have come, otherwise that of the last year. So the first question reads, which of the following leaf modifications occur in the desert areas to inhibit water loss? Hard and waxy leaves, tiny leaves, thorns instead of leaves. Choose the correct answer, 2 and 3, 2 only, 3 only, 1, 2, 3. All the 3 are correct because long roots, thick barks, waxy leaves, thorns, little leaves are used to save water. Again, as I told you, institution related. How is the National Green Tribunal different from the Central Pollution Control Board? The NGT has been established by an act, whereas CPCB has been created by an executive order of government. The NGT provides environmental justice and helps reduce the burden of litigation in the higher courts. Whereas the CPCB promotes cleanliness of streams and wells and aims to improve the quality of air in the country. Again, as I told you, objective is very important. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Especially, it's the correct answer? 2 only. Because yes, NGT has been established by an act. CPCB has also been established by an act, which is Water and Air Pollution Control Act. There could also be a terminology like this, statutory. It has been done under a statute. Statute also means an act of parliament, statutory law. Even if, suppose yesterday also we saw some questions where there are, I mean, suppose if there is an institution or anything which has a number of functions, it is impossible for you to remember all the functions of each institution. Have a glance through that. It should be familiar. I mean, it should not stand out. You could just have a reading, but have a reading through all the functions. Which of the following statements best describes carbon fertilization? Increased plant growth due to increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Increased temperature of earth due to increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Increased acidity of oceans as a result of increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Adaptation of all living beings on earth to the climate change brought about by the increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. A is the correct answer. Carbon fertilization is increased plant growth due to increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Enhanced rates of photosynthesis, it is because enhanced rates of photosynthesis plants due to CO2 fertilization are only partially transferred to enhance plant growth. Again, one related term to this could be Arctic greening. This is, has anyone read about it? Arctic greening. Scientists have found that as northern portions of the planet warm up, even as total carbon dioxide increases, there has been an increased plant growth in the region. So carbon fertilization can be linked with Arctic greening. Arctic greening. Arctic greening. Again, if you see this question with reference to Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, this is again one of those questions where I told you they're interrelating agriculture and environment. Read about similar initiatives in probably if you can, this will always be available to you in current affairs. Ministry of Agriculture, certain ministries are related to environment. Ministry of Agriculture, um, Ministry of probably, if I could say, Ministry of Agriculture is one. Second is I just forgot. Ministry of Fertilizers, because they also do something related to environment. They do climate smart agriculture. Ministry of Horticulture also. So just keep in mind with these interrelations. With reference to Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, which of the following statements are correct? GACSA is an outcome of the climate summit held in Paris in 2015. Membership of GACA does not create any binding obligations. India was instrumental in the creation of GACSA. 1 and 3, 2 only, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. Obviously, if it was associated with India, you would have come across it like International Solar Alliance. So, if you take 3 as the wrong answer, select the correct code. If 3 is wrong, what are those options out there? 2 only. So, GSCA is a multi-holder, inclusive, voluntary and action-oriented multi-stakeholder platform on climate smart agriculture. So, 1 and 3 are wrong, 2 is the correct option. Always also keep in mind in eliminating the options. It is not necessarily that every one of us knows the answer to every question. Again, which of the following best defines permaculture? Permaculture is a system of agriculture and aquaculture within the ecological carrying capacity of the region. It is a system of agriculture and social design principles centered on simulating or directly utilizing the patterns and features observed in natural ecosystems. Permaculture is a system of agriculture and agro-based industry developing side by side, none. Again, this is a typical factual question. If you don't know the answer, don't try to second guess it. It is a system of agriculture and social design principles centered on simulating or directly utilizing the patterns and features observed in natural ecosystems. Hence, correct answer is B. Identify the incorrect pair from the below mentioned things. Again, Green Climate Fund COP16 held in Cancun, Global Environment Facility, eve of the 1992 Earth Rio Summit, Special Climate Change Fund, Kyoto Protocol 2001, Adaptation Fund, Paris Convention 2015. Choose which one is correctly matched. Yeah, sorry, choose which is the incorrectly matched pair. Incorrectly matched is Adaptation Fund, Paris Convention 2015. It is 2001 to finance concrete adaptation projects and programs in developing countries, parties to the Kyoto Protocol that are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. Hence, I told you always have things in a tabular data, especially related to institutions, treaties and agreements. How many countries, which are the partner countries, which are the primary objectives? Have a tabular form, easier for you to grasp. Consider the following statements and select the correct one. Decreasing levels of ozone in the stratosphere will lead to reduction in the levels of smog in major cities. Decreasing levels of ozone in the stratosphere will lead to increase in the occurrence of skin cancer in humans. Levels of ozone in the stratosphere will lead to reduction in rate of warming. Decreasing level of ozone activity of phytoplankton. B. Why B? Ground level ozone is involved with smog formation, not ozone in the stratosphere. Tropospheric ozone is responsible for global warming, not stratospheric ozone. Finally, decreasing levels of stratospheric ozone result in increased rate of ultraviolet radiation, which may inhibit phytoplankton photosynthesis in surface waters. Again, it depends on your basic understanding. These type of long answers, I mean more number of points, I have told you also before, you must carefully read it. There could be only a caveat, only, there could be some caveat relating to the, and usually avoid those which have those digits and factors like 1% of GDP, only 8 number digits are there, and cross check that with your memory. If you are not getting that into your memory, don't mark it out. A bioindicator is a living organism that gives us an idea of the health of an ecosystem. Only microorganisms can act as bioindicators. Which of the above statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. 1 only, because bioindicators can be plants, animals as well as microorganisms. So, only 1 is the right answer. Bay of Bengal hosts a dead zone of around 60,000 square kilometers. Which of the following systems correctly define a dead zone? It is a region which is almost devoid of dissolved oxygen. It is a region where population of fish has become almost nil because of overfishing. It is a region where the population of predator exceeds the prey. It is a zone of dying coral reefs. A. It is a region which is almost devoid of dissolved oxygen. Is it a universal phenomenon, worldwide phenomenon? Where are the other areas where it has been found? Well, the second largest dead zone in the world is located in the US. 3 major identified dead zones are 2 in the eastern tropical Pacific of Peru, Chile and Mexico, and 1 in the Arabian Sea. Bay of Bengal is new in the list. Note this down. Western Ghats has very rich biodiversity as compared to Eastern Ghats because, again, this is a typical UPSC question where you will have to use your inferential capabilities. Western Ghats are continuous mountains. Western Ghats is an area of high orographic precipitation. Many rivers have its source at Western Ghats. The trick in this question is options are 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 1, 2, 3. Trick in this question is biodiversity. If you know the correct meaning of the word biodiversity, you will be able to answer this. What are the answers? Western Ghats is an example of tropical rainforest. Obviously, if it is continuous mountains, there are more tree cover, it results in larger biodiversity. High orographic precipitation, more biodiversity, more flora and fauna are to be found. Finally, if there is a river source with a forest source, rivers are also species rich. The lot of species found within the rivers also, they also add to the biodiversity of the place. Therefore, I told you, if you have an idea about the biodiversity, what is biodiversity, then you can answer this question very easily. So, all the 3 options are correct. Again, typical question about Animal Welfare Board of India. I will repeat ad nauseum. Have the institution, which is the act or how it was formed, who is the chairman of that particular board. This has also been asked in UPSC. Who is the chairman, vice chairman, how many members are there? They would ask you whether Prime Minister is the chairman or not. It has been asked previously. And then finally, what is its mandate? Preferably the headquarters. The Animal Welfare Board of India is a statutory advisory body. The Animal Welfare Board of India was set up in 1962 in accordance with Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Which of the following statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. 1 only. It is a statutory advisory body on animal welfare laws and promotes animal welfare. Section 4 of Prevention of Cruelty to Animal Act. Again, I told you statutory body means which has been set up under a statute or a law. The Earth Summit resulted in which of the following documents? I told you, you will have to take out what is the output of that particular summit. Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, Agenda 21, Forest Principles, 1 and 2 only, 1 only, 2 only, 1, 2, 3. All the three. Also, two legally binding documents, Convention on Biological Diversity, Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Mega diverse nation status is conferred by Conservation International. Which of the following statements are correct regarding mega diverse countries? Here again, even if not asked, do a study about Conservation International. Mandate, functions, where location, member countries. They should have 0.5% of the total species of vascular plants or 1000 endemic vascular plant species. They should have a marine ecosystem. India is a mega diverse country. Select the code 1, 2, 2, 3, 3 only, none of the above. Mega diverse country. Mega diverse, biodiversity, mega diverse. It must have a marine ecosystem. Go into the marine ecosystem. It should have 5000 species of endemic plants and must border marine ecosystems. This is also important. While you are reading about this, understand the conditions. This is specially asked in environment type of questions. Correct option is 2 and 3. Again, a simple question which refer to algal blooms. Which of the following statements are correct? They are always harmful for aquatic ecosystem. They are called red tides. Algal blooms can occur in freshwater as well as marine environments. 1 and 3 only, 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2, 3. Yes, some can actually be beneficial. Hence, 2 and 3 is the correct option. Red tides we all know, freshwater as well as marine environments they can occur. Which of the following statements correctly explain the term saprotroph? This is the name given to the organism which produce their own food without sunlight. It is an organism which feeds on decaying matter. This is the name given to highest consumer in a food chain. It is a primary food producer in marine food chain. It is an organism which feeds on decaying matter. Consider the following statements with reference to wetlands. Again, this is very important. You ask this question. Only those wetlands which are listed in the list, we can consider them. Let us not apply that whether a big marine body can, it could jolly well qualify to be in wetlands. For example, Majuli. There was this question yesterday that whether Majuli can be considered as an wetland or not. If it fulfills the requirements of Ramsar sites or whatever wetland mention, then only it can. If it is list, we are not going to assume that it is an wetland. Very important. You have to be very specific about these lists. Wetland sites, probably buffer zone, and something like suppose ecosystems. So you have to be very particular. Only those listed, which are the mega diverse parts, only those listed, only we can take them. Wetlands exist in every country and every climatic zone, from the polar regions to the tropics, from high altitude to dry regions. Mangroves, peatlands, rice fields, and even coral reefs can be considered a wetland. Which of the following statements given above are correct? Both. Wetland definition is, wetlands occur when water, I am sorry, the previous statement which I did is about those important wetland sites and Ramsar sites. Wetlands occur where water meets land. They include mangroves, peatlands and marshes, rivers and lakes, deltas, floodplains and flooded forests, rice fields and even coral reefs. Wetlands exist in every country and every climatic zone, from the polar region to the tropics, from high altitude to dry region. Once you get this definition clear, you can classify anything as a wetland, where obviously rice fields is what? Waterlogging for not even the complete part of the year. That can also be considered as a wetland. But Ramsar sites as well as wetlands of national importance, only those which have been given in the list. We are not going to go beyond that. Correct answer is both 1 and 2. Which of the following are likely to increase after large areas of tropical rainforests are cut down? Again, very interesting UPSC type question. Erosion by rivers flowing through the areas, rate of nutrient loss from the areas, species diversity of the areas, average surface temperature of the soil in the areas. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Analyze the statements by everyone. Erosion by rivers flowing the areas, forests are cut down. There is barren landscape. Obviously, erosion will be more. Rate of nutrient loss from the areas, higher. Species diversity, it is lower. Forests have been cut down. You have barren land. What is obviously the species diversity goes down. Average surface temperature of soil in the areas increase, larger penetration of sunlight. Tropical rainforests have been cut down. Hence, correct option is 1, 2, 4. In the context of solving pollution problems, what is the advantage of bioremediation technique? It is a technique for cleaning up pollution by enhancing the same biodegradation. Any contaminant with heavy metals such as cadmium and lead can be readily and completely treated by bioremediation using microorganisms. Genetic engineering can be used to create microorganisms specifically designed for bioremediation. 1 only, 2 and 3 only. Analyze the statements individually. It is a technique for cleaning up pollution by enhancing the same biodegradation rate. True, because there is in situ, there is ex situ, but both involved in increasing the biodegradation rate. Second point, any contaminant with heavy metals such as cadmium and lead can be readily and completely treated by bioremediation using microorganisms. Biodegradation cannot affect heavy metals. Heavy metals would persist. So, cadmium and lead obviously cannot be used. Genetic engineering, phytoremediation. If you have studied in Shankar, it is clearly mentioned. Phytoremediation uses genetic engineering, using of plants to remove contaminants from soil and water. Hence, obviously 1 and 3 are the correct options. Biosphere reserves are demarcated into following 3 interrelated zones: core zones, buffer zones and transition zone. A core zone being national park or sanctuary is regulated under which of the following acts? EPA Act, Wildlife Protection Act, Biodiversity Act, Forest Conservation Act 1980. The correct answer is Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Again, Biodiversity Act lists down in tabular form. What is the act? Which are the authorities it covers? What is the penalty? Very important. What is the penalty? Does it cover or has it been done as a result of India signing any international treaty or agreement? They could always ask you a question that Biodiversity Act is a result of which of the following treaty agreement. That is so important. According to IUCN, which of the following species is not critically endangered? Malabar civet, hangul, pygmy hog, blackbuck. Blackbuck is the least concerned species. Complete the following below statements with regard to under 2 coalition and identify the correct statement. Group of ambitious governments from around the world committed to combating climate change. It is in relation to limiting the use of plastics which are above 2 microns. It is in relation to limiting the use of plastic and plant policy on alternatives. It deals with conservation of Antarctica and Antarctic. A. The government comes under the larger idea of government, but clearly it is just A, where 2, 3 and 4 are not the options, hence A it is. Which of the following are classified as low-tech ecosystem? Brooks, springs, lakes, rivers. 1 and 3, 1, 2, 4, 3 only, 2 and 4. Low-tech ecosystem has flowing waters, example creeks, streams, runs, rivers, springs, brooks and channels. Hence the correct answer is 1, 2 and 4. Lentic ecosystem has still waters, lakes come under lentic ecosystem. The term extended producer responsibility is often seen in the news related to ecosystem services provided by biodiversity, waste management, marine fishing, mining and metallurgy. Waste management. It is simply put that if you are producing a waste which has to be recycled, you take care of it also, even if it has outlived its use and it has been purchased by a consumer. Consider the following statements about net present value of forests. It is defined under Forest Rights Act 2006. It is calculated for a period of 50 years. It is the amount paid by the project proponent for diverting land for non-forest use to compensate the loss in ecosystem areas. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 only. Correct option is, let us go each wise. Forest Rights Act 2006 or 1980? Forest Rights Act. Forest, it has been developed under Forest Conservation Act 1980. It is calculated for a period of 50 years. It is the amount paid by the project proponent for diverting land for non-forest use to compensate the loss in ecosystem services. Along with this, another pointer, remember you have to read about CAMPA, compensatory forest. What is the condition? Under which law has it been mandated? What is the present status? This could also come in part of General Studies paper 3 where you have environment in long question. CAMPA is an important part. Next, consider the following statements about Basel Convention. It is an international treaty that was designed to reduce the movement of hazardous waste between nations. It specifically focuses on to prevent transfer of hazardous waste from developed to least developed countries. It also addresses the movement of radioactive waste between different nations. 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. Let us go one by one. Basel Convention, international treaty to reduce movements of hazardous waste between nations, correct. Specifically focuses on to prevent of hazardous waste from developed to less developing countries, this is also correct. It also addresses the movement of radioactive waste between different nations, this is not correct. Hence correct option is 1 and 2 only. Again, this is a pointer. Basel Convention, Cartagena Protocol, while you are reading about it, just remember the chronology. There could also be a chronological question about it. Which is the year in which all these protocols have been devised. Along with your major environmental meets, Nagoya, Uruguay, sorry, I am not Uruguay, Nagoya Protocol, whenever all these Kyoto, you have to arrange them in chronological order. That could be a question. Consider the following regarding Cartagena Protocol. The protocol seeks to protect biodiversity from environmental threats like acid rain, pollution, land degradation. It allows member countries to ban imports of genetically modified organisms if they feel that there is not enough scientific evidence that the product is safe. Correct, choose the correct option. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 not 2. Obviously, the second option is correct. First option, from environmental threats, that is not correct. Hence, Cartagena Protocol directly addresses the issue of protecting biological diversity from potential risks posed by genetically modified organisms from modern biotechnology. Correct answer is 2 only. Consider the following statements about the Partnership for Land Use Science Forest Plus. It is a joint program by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and United Nations Environment Program. It is aimed at strengthening the capacity for RED, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation implementation in India. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. The first option is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and UNEP. No, it is United States Agency for International Development and MOEFCC. It is USAID and MOEFCC. Second is aimed at strengthening capacity for RED implementation in India. This is the correct one. Simple. If you just see, if you are even writing in tabular form USAID, MOF, I mean you would never forget this. Therefore, I tell you, all these partnerships, all these programs, whenever you find in current affairs, etc., have a copy for environment where you write them down in tabular form. Consider the following statements about Silai Sal tree. It is found in both the eastern and western Ghats. The dry leaves of the tree are a major source for the production of leaf plates. Oil extracted from the seeds of the tree is used as an edible oil. Choose the correct statements, only 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, 1 and 2, 1 and 3. If 2 is true, 3 can also follow. Correct option would be 2 and 3. Salt seeds and fruit are source of lamp oil and vegetable fat. The seed oil is extracted from the seeds and used as cooking oil after refining. So, my only point is, if you are approaching such question with you don't have knowledge, it is better to approach such inferential questions. 2 and 3, only 2, yes, you could be confused, but then you can always take the better guess and say that 2 and 3 are the correct options. Consider the following statements about global partnership on wildlife conservation and crime prevention for sustainable development. It is funded by the Global Environment Facility. It focused on countries from Asia, South America and Africa. It was established during the Gaborone Convention. 1 only, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, none of the above. Correct option is, let us go option by wise, funded by Global Environment Facility. This is true. Focused on countries from Asia, Africa only, 19 countries, not South America. Finally, not during the Gaborone Convention. It is a program which is a World Bank led partnership of 19 countries to promote the conservation and sustainable development by combating traffic in wildlife. You could just also note as a pointer which are the countries in Africa and Asia which are the party to this: Botswana, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Gabon, Kenya, Malawi, Mali, Mozambique, Republic of Congo, South Africa, Zambia and Zimbabwe. In Asia it is Afghanistan, India, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand and Vietnam. You could expect a question in a reverse manner also. In India, whether this is implemented or not, who has, is it World Bank or global environment related or both? This could also be a question. Which of the following statements are correct about circadian rhythm? It is a biological rhythm with a 12-hour cycle. It can be found in plants and animals only. It can be synchronized by environmental cycles. 1 only, 1 and 2 only, 3 only, 1 and 3 only. Three only, it is a biological rhythm with a 24-hour cycle. Plants, for animals, it can be found these 24-hour based circadian clock and been widely observed in plants, animals, fungi and cyanobacteria. Not only plants and animals. This is an important pointer. Please note it down. Common risk mitigating mechanism. An insurance scheme is associated with which of the following groups? BRICS, Climate Vulnerable Forum, United Nations Environment Program, International Solar Alliance. International Solar Alliance. It is to protect investors' interests so that more and more investment can be attracted to the growing solar energy sector. Consider the following statements about BioFuture platform. It aims to accelerate the development and scale up of the deployment of modern sustainable low carbon alternatives to fossil based solutions in transport fuels, industrial processes, chemical, plastics and other sectors. It was launched at the 23rd conference of the parties, Bonn. Select the correct statements. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. It was launched at COP22 Marrakesh. I told you again, you have to conference of parties, you have to note what has been launched, where has been launched, what are the member countries, India is a part of it or not. Because environmental current affairs relating to India, they are asking more. Again, the first option is correct, second is wrong, it is at COP22 Marrakesh. Next question, consider the following statements with respect to Global Energy Interconnection Development and Cooperation Organization. It is an international organization among willing firms, associations, institutions and individuals who are dedicated to promoting the sustainable development of energy worldwide. It is the brainchild of European Union. 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. It is not brainchild of European Union because it is headquartered, its permanent office is domiciled in Beijing, China. Is an international organization among willing firms, associations, institutions and individuals who are dedicated to promoting the sustainable development of energy worldwide. Again, suppose if you are probably making notes out of this, you just write down the crux point, that sustainable use of energy worldwide. That is more than enough, and you see the same thing in the particular option and you just mark it. There is no need to go for those long definitions, no one does it. But if you are having in a concrete form or even in the book also, if you are just drawing a rectangle about it, if you are lazy about notes, just draw a rectangle about it. So our correct option is 1 only. Again, coated fertilizers, neem coated urea in news, India related. Which of the following are benefits of coated fertilizers? Prolonged supply of nutrients, uniform plant nutrition, decreased leaching. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, all of the above. Again, it is an inferential question. Prolonged supply, obviously when there is coating, it means there is a prolonged supply of nutrition. Nutrition is delayed and slowly, gradually it is being given. The first point is clear. Second point is uniform plant nutrition. We will come to it last. Decreased leaching. If you are applying an uncoated urea and there is a flood or there is water etc., it has obviously the greater chances of getting washed away. Simple leaching process. 1 and 3 are correct. Second, if since there is slow and gradual trigger of the release of the nutrients, obviously about renewable energy certificates, they are aimed at addressing the mismatch of renewable energy resources in the states and the renewable purchase obligation requirements. They are traded on the Indian Energy Exchange and Power Exchange of India Limited. Select the correct statements, 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Both the options are correct. Again, it is one pointer here which is to be remembered is it is of two categories, solar as well as non-solar. The following statements about global partnership on forest landscape restoration. It responds directly to the Bonn challenge to restore 150 million hectares of deforested and degraded land by 2020 and 350 million hectares by 2030. It was initiated by International Union for Conservation of Nature. Select the correct options, 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Both of them are correct. Again, I think we all need to brush up our environment current affairs very thoroughly, because environment is only about current affairs. More than 50% of questions, be rest assured, would be about current affairs and in news. Specifically partnerships, summits, treaties, agreements, new protocols which have been developed, and Indian context. Environmental current affairs has to be revised. Both the statements are correct. It was launched in 2011 by Government of Germany and IUCN and later endorsed and extended by the New York Declaration on Forests of 2014 UN Climate Summit. It responds directly to the Bonn challenge to bring 150 million hectares of deforested and degraded land by 2020 and 350 million hectares by 2030. The next question, consider the following statements about Satkosia Tiger Reserve, place from where I come from. It is located where the Mohanty river passes through a gorge in the Eastern Ghats. It supports moist deciduous forest and dry deciduous forest. It is a natural habitat for Sangai deer. 1 only, 1 and 2, 2 only, 1 and 3. 1 and 2. Sangai deer, obviously it is not the case, 3 is eliminated. Odisha has, if you can use your logic, moist deciduous and dry deciduous forest, it is the belt. Mohanty river obviously passes, but again, whether through a gorge in the Eastern Ghats, you will have to take a calculated risk in this. Many people won't be aware that it is the landing of Mohanty from where it goes down to the Bay of Bengal. Passes through a gorge, but again, this is those iffy questions. If you can take a risk, better take a risk in this question rather than any other factual question you don't have idea about. Consider the following statements about Global Invasive Alien Species Information Partnership. All partnerships through the Convention of Biological Diversity are partners of GIS-ASI partnership. The partners are committed to effective implementation of ILP Biodiversity Target 9. Select the correct statements, 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Again, it's a pretty tough question in terms of it has asked you too much in depth, but you never know, UPSC could ask you some questions like this. Both the options are correct. All parties to the Convention of Biological Diversity as partners of GISI partnership. The partners are committed to effective implementation of ILP Biodiversity Target 9. This is another reason why I tell you all that I think this is one thing which I did not do in my first attempt and I did in my second attempt, it actually helped me. Whenever you are given these sort of exams and questions and then you get those booklets, all these information are actually in a very concise form in those booklets itself, but we never bother to go through the analysis and the answer sheet. It's a fact. It's in a very concise manner. We need not again go through a current affairs and do this. Just solve these questions, see the answers, take out relevant supplementary information and write it down. Please, please, please try to understand. It's just saving you a lot of problem if you are using this. Consider the following statements in respect of trade related analysis of flora and fauna in commerce. Traffic is a bureau under United Nations Environment Program. Traffic is to ensure that trade in wildlife and animals is not a threat to conservation of nature. Which of the following statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Again, we need to know about the institutions where it has been done, where it was established, under any conference of parties or any other such place. It was founded in 1976, Strategic Alliance of Worldwide Fund for Nature and International Union for Conservation of Nature. So 1 is wrong, the part 2 is correct. From the ecological point of view, which one of the following assumes importance in being a good link between the Eastern Ghats and Western Ghats? It has asked you location about, it is basically a map based, location based question. Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve, Nallamalla Forest, Nagarhole National Park, Sheshachalam Biosphere Reserve. A. Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve is the good linking point. Biological oxygen demand is a standard criterion for measuring oxygen levels in blood, computing oxygen levels in forest ecosystems, pollution assay in aquatic ecosystems, assessing oxygen levels in high altitude regions. Very obvious, easy answer. With reference, again you could be asked that what is the relation between biological oxygen demand and level of pollution also. This is an important pointer, you must understand. If the level of pollution increases, what is the status of BOD? Pollution decreases, what is the status of BOD? With reference to an initiative called the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, which of the following statements are correct? It is an initiative hosted by UNEP, IMF and World Economic Forum. It is a global initiative that focuses on drawing attention to economic benefits of biodiversity. It presents an approach that can help decision makers recognize, demonstrate and capture the value of ecosystems and biodiversity. 1 and 2 only, 3 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2, 3. Again, if you see this question, 2 and 3 are pretty similar. They are telling the same thing. I mean, suppose if you assume that economics of ecosystem and TEB is a global initiative that focuses on drawing attention to economic benefits of biodiversity, and it also obviously it also presents an approach that can help decision makers recognize, demonstrate and capture the value of ecosystems and biodiversity. These are not two very dissimilar ideas. So 2 and 3 are more or less similar. Part 1 is factual. UNEP, IMF and World Economic Forum. IMF has never anything to do with environment, for sure. The last thing on that which they can ever have is something to do with environment. Obviously, part 1 is the wrong answer. 2 and 3, you get through elimination. No, is it sounding logical or not? I mean, we sometimes think, no, this is a very difficult question, but no, just go through the question. IMF can never have anything to do with probably environment. Correct option is United Nations Environment Program as part of its Green Economy Initiative. Next question 43 with reference to eco-sensitive zone. If a wetland of international importance is bought under the Mohanty-IASbaba record, what does it imply? Simple definition they have asked, changes in ecological character have occurred or are occurring or are likely to occur in the wetland as a result of human interference. Country in which the wetland is located should enact a law to prohibit any human activity within 5 kilometers from edge of the wetland. The survival of wetland depends on the cultural practices and traditions of certain communities living in its vicinity and therefore the cultural diversity therein should not be destroyed. It is given the status of World Heritage Site. A is the correct answer. Again, in these sort of questions, I would obviously not ask you to go into depth of national park, but again, any wetland and any national park or sanctuary, if there is any connection between them, if it becomes part of a national park or sanctuary, those could be crucial questions. Again, in these sort of questions, wetlands, etc., just go through the species diversity. If there is a lot, very Sangai deer is part of which wetland, this could also be a question. Because as we read before, wetland can be anything. And then on wetlands, we only remember the 17 or 18 wetlands which are there as Ramsar sites or Mohanty-IASbaba record. Wetland can be anything actually. The most important strategy for conservation of biodiversity together with traditional human life is establishment of biosphere reserves, botanical gardens, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries. Biosphere reserves. Again, national park, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserve, wildlife sanctuaries are too many in number. Remember the critical ones, I mean, which has critical probably, I mean, in recent news, etc. National park should have a good idea about, and it's easy to remember also, not very tough. Also, in environment, remember any other conservation program. For example, I'll tell you, recently there has been a step by Assam government to release some tigers into Baksa Tiger Reserve to West Bengal. So, this can also be a current affairs question. Remember national parks, wildlife sanctuaries which are currently in news, very important. With reference to zones, which of the following statements are correct? Eco-sensitive zones are the areas that are declared under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Purpose of the declaration of eco-sensitive zone is to prohibit all kinds of human activities in those zones except agriculture. Select the correct option, 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Correct option, first Wildlife Protection Act 1972, obviously not. It is notified by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India around protected areas, National Park and Wildlife Sanctuaries. So it is not, the Environment Protection Act does not mention the word eco-sensitive zones. However, section 3(2) of the act says that central government can restrict areas in which any industry operations or processes or class of industry operations or processes shall not be carried out or shall be carried out subject to certain safeguards. Obviously, it does not talk about prohibiting all kinds of human activity. Hence, 1 and 2 are both false. What is the role of ultraviolet radiation in the water purification system? It inactivates, kills the harmful microorganisms in water. It removes all the undesirable odors from the water. It quickens the sedimentation of solid particles, removes turbidity and improves the clarity of water. A, 1 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 1, 2, 3. Again, simple way to approach this question. Ultraviolet radiation, does it have anything to take away the odor of water? Is that false? Universally agreed. Which are the options there which has 2 in it? A, 1 only. All others have 2 as an option. So, no, see, 2 is that it removes all the undesirable odors from water. Ultraviolet radiation, does it have anything to do with removing, odors from water? Are we universally agreed on this? So, if it is wrong, which of the statements are 2 and 3 eliminated? 1 and 3, C is eliminated. 2, 3 is eliminated. It quickens the sedimentation of solid particles, removes turbidity and improves the clarity of water. Turbidity is what? Okay. So, turbidity and clarity of water could be an option, but sedimentation, can it be quickened by ultraviolet rays? Filtration. Ultraviolet radiation cannot quicken the sedimentation. Sedimentation can only be quickened by filtration. Hence, obviously 3 is the wrong answer. The only answer which remains is A. Get my point? The next question. If a tropical rainforest is removed, it does not quickly regenerate as compared to a tropical deciduous forest. This is because soil of rainforest are deficient in nutrients, propagules of the trees in a rainforest have poor viability, rainforest species are slow growing, the exotic species invade the fertile soil of rainforest. A. Because obviously leaching occurs and the fertile material of the soil is removed. Which of the following of a species best describes how an organism or population responds to a distribution of resources and competitors and how it in turns alters those same factors for its survival? Ecotone, ecology, ecological niche, edge effect. Ecological niche is the correct answer. Ecological niche describes how an organism or population responds to a distribution of resources and competitors and how it in turn alters those same factors by limiting access to resources by other organisms, acting as food source for predators and a consumer of prey. Any practice that affects the equilibrium of an aquatic environment may alter the temperature of that environment and cause thermal pollution. Consider the following statements regarding thermal pollution. Thermal pollution comes in the form of dumping warm waters and not cold waters into lake, river or ocean. Volcanic eruption is one source of thermal pollution. Due to thermal pollution, dissolved oxygen content in water increases. 1 and 3 only, 2 only, 3 only, none. 2 only, because it is never about warm or cold waters. Thermal pollution can also be caused by cold waters. Obviously, if pollution occurs, dissolved oxygen content in the water decreases, aquatic organisms are affected by it. Hence, 2 is the correct option. Which of the following are the possible consequences of heavy sand mining in riverbeds? Decreased salinity in water. This is also an important activity question. You could be expected questions from it. Especially illegal sand mining is rampant all across India. Specific measures taken by state governments also in sand mining, in respect of sand mining, could be asked to you. And solutions also. Decreased salinity in the water, pollution of groundwater, lowering of water table. Obviously decreased salinity is not the option, because suppose if the river is near a sea, if there is large sand mining around the mouth of the river, obviously seawater intrusion could increase the salinity in fact. Okay. Lowering of the water table, obviously because you are digging sand, you are taking away, you are lowering down the water table, water is percolating down. Pollution of groundwater, obviously this could be an option. Hence 2 and 3 are the correct options. Recently pet coke or petroleum was in news. Consider the following statements about it. Pet coke is carbon rich material derived from oil refining. It is A is the correct option, one only. It is not a cleaner alternative to coke. India is the world's biggest consumer of pet coke. Hence this is the option. So we have solved many questions from environment. It's not exhaustive to be, to be honest, it's not very exhaustive, but it gives you a feel of 3 things. You need to brush up and revise consistently in order to answer questions in environment, because most of it comes from current affairs. What are the sources that you need? What are the types of questions which can be expected from, say, probably theory, from agreements, from protocols, from recent current affairs in news, and finally how to eliminate answers. I tell you, if you base on inference, UPSC asks easier questions than this. If I'll be very honest with you, UPSC in prelims asks you easier questions than this on inference. I mean, to infer and take out a logical answer. It is very easy. Again, ad nauseum I'll tell you, don't go for factual questions and guessworking, rather work your way out. There was that question about SAL. Obviously, you could use your intelligent guess. It could go wrong, but it has a lesser probability of going wrong than probably something which is very factual. But as I see, we all need to revise our current affairs notes for environment, very specifically last 1 year India related.